Trustee Anthony, looks like he's absent. Trustee Foster.
Good evening.
Trustee Graham Hudek.
Good evening.
Let the record reflect that Clerk Segrist is in attendance. Treasurer Slavens.
Good evening.
Trustee Snyderman.
Hi, everyone.
And Supervisor Williams.
Hello. Call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
In favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a single set of minutes to approve. I'm sorry? Clerk Segrist, are we good?
2 sets of minutes.
2 sets of minutes, okay. Okay, I see that now. For January 23rd, 2018, we have 2 sets of minutes. Do we approve that in one motion for the special and the regular, or do we split them, Clerk Segrist?
I can make a motion that we do both at once.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board approve the minutes from the special meeting on January 23rd, 2018, and the minutes from the regular meeting, January 23rd, 2018, as presented.
Support.
In favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And I'm looking for payment of the bills. After recognition, okay. Very good. Next item on the agenda is a very special resolution. I'd like to read into the public record. It's a resolution recognizing public safety employees' work during the bank robbery of January 25th, 2018. And Josh, could you please join me? Be tough for pictures. I don't know if you can get the.
Yeah, oh yeah. No rules against taking pictures.
So we have this here. Okay, first, let's read the resolution. Whereas Canton Public Safety Department recognizes the value of exceptional employees and the significant role they play in the accomplishment of its mission, and whereas on the afternoon of Thursday, January 25th, 2018, Canton Public Safety's Dispatch Center received reports of an armed robbery in progress with hostages at the Citizens Bank on Canton Center Road. Whereas, upon conveyance of this information, 57 public safety personnel quickly assembled into tactical, investigative, informative, and responsive positions, with each of the employees knowing and performing their specific role to the best of their ability, and whereas, due to the efforts of all department staff involved, along with the assistance from Western Wing Special Operations, Crisis Negotiation Teams, Western Wayne Community Response Team, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the 14-hour and 14-minute incident ended peacefully, with the release of all hostages and the suspect taken into police custody. And whereas the quick actions, display of knowledge, and exceptional execution of teamwork by Public Safety Department staff during this dangerous situation was truly reflective of excellence in the delivery of public safety service. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, upon recommendation of the Canton Director of Public Safety, does hereby recognize the Public Safety Department staff for the commendable contribution to the Canton community. Now we've got a couple resolutions here that we'd like to share, but Josh, would you like to briefly say something?
Sure.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, this is a testament to the police officers and firefighters and the entire organization and the work that they did that night. The training that we do, they train so hard, they work every day, and that paid off that afternoon. I have no doubt that the 5 hostages and the suspect are alive today because of the actions of the Canton Police Department and the Canton Fire Department. So I'm internally grateful for the work that they do, not only every day, but the work that they do on this incident, and can't thank them enough. So appreciate their efforts.
Well done, guys. Well done. Clerk, if we could have a motion to formally have this placed in our public record.
Supervisor, I move that the board approve and enter into public record resolution.
Support.
In favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's see. Yes, now would be that time in the agenda for public comment. Is there anybody who would like to make public comment? Would anybody like to make public comment? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion for payment of the bills this month?
Excuse me. Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that we pay the bills.
Second.
In favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Now we will read the consent calendar. The Clerk Segrist will read the consent calendar in one motion.
Pardon me. Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the consent calendar as written with item C1, consider second reading of an amendment to Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances regarding the Cherry Hill Village Overlay District. Item C2, consider second reading of an amendment to Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances regarding the Summer Park Pulte rezoning. Item C3, consider second reading of an amendment to Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances regarding the Volk Music rezoning. Item C4, appointment and reappointment to the Canton Tax Board of Review for Mr. Stan Turek and Ms. Brooke Franklin. Item C5, appointment and reappointment to the Historic District Commission of Mr. Stephen Foley and Ms. Joanne Dione. Item C6, consider request for use of copyright, which is a request of the City of London, Ontario, to use portions of the Michigan Historic Cemeteries Preservation Guide, which is the intellectual property of Canton Township and the product of an employee.
Second.
In favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries. First reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 98 of the Canton Code of Ordinances to bring the ordinance into compliance with state law and to increase the size of the Planning Commission to 9 members.
Supervisor, this may be in the form of 2 motions. I move to introduce for first reading an ordinance which amends Chapter 98 of the Canton Code of Ordinances.
Second.
In summary, the Chapter 98 Code of Ordinances titled Planning still cites Rural Township Zoning Act, which was repealed and replaced by the Michigan Planning Enabling Act in 2008. Discussions about the makeup of the Planning Commission have led to a review of township ordinances governing the Planning Commission. While Section 28.03 of the zoning ordinances was updated when the state planning law was changed in 2008, however, Chapter 98 was not revised. As the board has indicated a desire to increase the size of the Planning Commission to 9 members, Chapter 98 has been reviewed and updated, and updates made to bring the ordinance into compliance with current law, as well as the increase the size by adding 2 members. The budget impact is $3,000 to $4,000 annually, which will be addressed by future requests for board action if this amendment is approved. This package did include the proper supporting detail, which was a miss in the last time we talked about this. Are there any more questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, those in favor of the first motion as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to table for consideration the proposed text amendment to the Code of Ordinances and to schedule a second reading for February 27th, 2018.
Those in favor of the second motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item G2, consider approval of the amendment number 5 to the Uptown Plan Development Agreement.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the following resolution. Amendment number 5 to the Uptown Planned Development District. Whereas the project sponsor, Mr. Mark Hyland, has requested approval for Amendment Number 5 to the Uptown Planned Development District to be located on Denton Road between Cherry Hill and Ridge Roads, identified as part of the tax parcel listed, and whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the amendment and made a recommendation to approve the request to grant approval as summarized in the attached written analysis and recommendation, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan does hereby approve the request of the petitioner, Mr. Mark Hyland, to approve the Fifth Amendment to the Uptown Planned Development District, subject to any conditions recommended by the Planning Commission and staff as described in the analysis and recommendation attached hereto and made a part hereof.
Very good. I believe we have Representative Mr. Mark Hyland from Beztech is with us this evening. In summary, Uptown Apartments are part of the Uptown Planned Development District originally approved by the Board of Trustees November 27, 2001. Amendment number 3 was approved December 9, 2008, creating the all-season senior apartments as part of the development area composed of 145 attached units. Amendment number 4, dated April 22, 2014, relocated the senior apartments from the previously approved internal location to part of the property fronting Denton Road and provided for 187 units. 9 apartment buildings, including 2 previously constructed by another party as condominiums on Cherry Hill Road, and a clubhouse building were then approved. The applicant now wishes to convert to the approved senior apartment element to traditional apartments matching the already constructed in prior phases. Approval and request will result in a reduction of 35 units from 187 to 152 total in this phase. Some modifications to the elevations of the buildings that do front onto Denton Road across from Fire Station Number 3 were made based on comments by the Planning Commission to make them a little more appealing from the street.
Absolutely, we increased the amount of brick due to their facades being on Denton Road and also on the entrance to the main thoroughfare through the site.
Go ahead, Anne Marie, please.
This one was an interesting one. I mean, it's on its 5th amendment since 2001. And when we talked about it in the Planning Commission, the big thing was we were going to be reducing density from 187 to 152, which is good. But also, the reason you did change this is because of the market study, correct?
Been working since the Amendment 3 in 2008, and even before then, on the concept of senior housing here. But unfortunately, as everyone knows, the economy went down, and that particular market hasn't bounced back up for our niche, which is the luxury senior housing. There's a lot of senior housing going in, but it just never came back for ours in this market. So we've been working at it and working at it. We even moved it over to give it more frontage on Denton Road, try and make more curb appeal, but the lenders just aren't having it right now. So we thought, well, right now our development's going really well. We've got still a lot of interest there, and we're up in the mid to high 90s for our rentals, and so we thought might as well take advantage of that instead of just sitting on it.
The higher end rental also, right? The cost.
Absolutely, yeah. The rents would be starting for a 1-bedroom in the middle of the complex around $1,300, going up to about $2,400 a month for the 2 bedrooms with the views of the parks and things.
Long discussion, but I mean, the big thing is that the density change was good, and also the market study basically sealed it.
No questions on what you're doing. The only question I have is for Director Foss. Was there going to be, not that I fully expect it to happen, a supermarket in this area at one point, and does this eliminate that possibility?
No, it does still retain that option, and I'll just zoom in here so you can see that a little more clearly. So the 5.4 acres that Mr. Hyland is requesting the change in the PDD on is this site right here. Fire Station 2 is cited, 3 rather, is cited right across the road on Denton here. They're still retaining a parcel on the corner for a potential bank or some other commercial use down the road. To the north of that, along the east-west Uptown Avenue Road, there would potentially be a gas station, and then the commercial and market
is here fronting on Cherry Hill Road. So for orientation purposes, this is IHA Health Clinic, and then there's some strip commercial here, and then a larger commercial, potentially a supermarket with additional commercial front buildings attached to it, a bank, if you will, or some other form of commercial, and then a gas station, so.
Thank you.
That's still in the long-term plan, but yet to be determined, as I think the board has heard previously. The more likelihood for the commercial to happen is once the residential is built out and there's enough, if you will, rooftops to support the commercial in the area, and we believe that the change from the seniors and assisted living will help support better a future commercial market in Cherry Hill Village.
Great, thank you.
So 2001 was when the initial PDD was approved. That's got to be, do you know the date that it would expire?
It's kind of been perpetually extended through all these various amendments. You know, we anticipate that they'll move forward with this project pretty quickly if approved by the township board. Then they still have to go through site plan engineering and get through our building process. But since it's similar product to what they've done on the other portions of the development, those components should go pretty quickly.
I know with the dog park being directly behind it, I drive past it quite often and have for many years seen the sign about the apartments, but seen the field there. And so it'll be interesting to see that the apartments finally come where the sign is. I know there's been a misconception in the community that will result in more units, and I think that the executive summary that Supervisor Williams explained actually indicates that that is in fact not the case, and that there are 35 less units. I think it looks like a great product, and it'll be exciting to see the rooftops in Cherry Hill Village support the kind of dream that the Board of Trustees had initially come up with, and you know, and yeah, so it can be kind of a self-contained area. I like it.
See no other comments. Those in favor of the first motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is this a single motion or double?
All set?
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval of purchase of five Ford Explorer Police Interceptors and accompanying amendment to the 2018 police budget.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of 5 2018 Ford Explorer Police Interceptors from Signature Ford at 3942 West Lansing Road, Perry, Michigan, 48872, via a Macomb County bid in the amount of $140,255.
Support.
The police department is requesting approval to purchase 5 Ford Explorer Police Interceptors. One of these vehicles was presented and approved by Township Board on January 23rd, 2018. But the cost of said vehicle was inadvertently omitted from the total dollar amount, requiring reapproval to generate a purchase order. The remaining 4 vehicles are new requests to increase the department's marked patrol fleet, which has remained the same since before 2009. Authorized drug forfeiture funds are being recommended to expend on the 4 additional vehicles. Are there any questions for Director Meyer? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, yes, seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Supervisor, I further move to approve the following budget amendment to the 2018 police budget. An increase in appropriations to the capital outlay vehicles account listed in the amount of $112,585, and a decrease in appropriations to the transfer to fund balance in the same amount, $112,585.
Those in favor of the second motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G4, consider approval of 2018 budget amendment in account 101-19197-30, capital outlay machinery and equipment by $5,000 to facilitate the purchase of voting booths and to approve a PO to Election Source from Grand Rapids, Michigan, in the amount of not more than $35,000.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve an increase in the 2018 budget in the account number that you stated for capital outlay machinery and equipment in the amount of $5,000 for a total of $35,000.
Thank you, Treasurer Slavens. Support. In 1985, the township purchased 340 voting booths for voters to use in precincts. With over 30 years of wear and tear, these booths are no longer viable. In long-range planning for the replacement, the township had spread the anticipated acquisition in an amount of $45,000 over a multi-year period. The clerk, desiring to maximize purchasing power through the use of economies of scale, did not spend the $15,000 budgeted in 2017, and as a result, the bulk purchasing, the township will be receiving the same number of booths for a substantially lower cost. The 2018 budget in elections, capital outlay, machinery, and equipment was originally set at $30,000. Following a meeting with the election source, the recommended provider of this type of equipment, the projected amount for new voting booths would be about $34,000, including shipping. The clerk is requesting to increase the budget in the account shown, capital outlay machinery and equipment, by $5,000 for an overall total of spend of $35,000, resulting in the savings of $10,000 from the initially anticipated cost. Well done, Clerk Segrist. Are there any board questions or comments for Clerk Segrist? Anne Marie?
So you did move around some of the precincts. Were you able to consolidate some of the voting booths then, or how?
Yeah, so the two issues I think are going to be separate in the sense that election law requires that you have one voting station for every 300 voters. We did arrange which precincts certain voters were in, but what we did not do was alter the number of voters in Canton. So we're at probably about 67,000 registered voters, and so that would really amount to us requiring to have enough stations for that number, then divided by 300. We don't use all voting booths. We use we have another solution as well, which you'll see in the attached receipt. There's for anybody who votes at a school, specifically on a larger election, we have a divider, a select duo. We have a corrugated plastic privacy screen, which will be set up at a cafeteria table. So that's we're purchasing 300 of those, and then 150 of the booths themselves. So the long answer I just gave you, the short answer is the realignment of the precincts did not impact this decision at all.
Did it help at all? I mean, were you able to consolidate or no? Not really.
Well, we did consolidate, so where we're saving is on the bulk purchasing of tabulators, because we have few precincts. We have 6 less voting locations, and so that saves us on purchasing ADA, voter assistant terminals, and it will save us in the salaries, right? So wages on election day, but when it comes to this purchase, it's not related.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, seeing no other comments, those in favor of the first motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion.
All right, Mr. Supervisor, I got lost. I move to approve a purchase order to Election Source 4615 Danvers Drive Southeast, Grand Rapids, Michigan, at 49512 in an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Those in favor of the second motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
These booths are made in Michigan. I just wanted to let everybody know that, so, all right.
Thank you.
Michael's backyard. Oh, just kidding.
Item G5, consider adoption of Leisure Services 5-year strategic plan.
Supervisor, I move to adopt the Leisure Services 5-year strategic plan.
Support.
In summary, Pros Consulting, Inc. was contracted to develop an updated 5-year strategic plan for leisure services. The strategic plan is vital to provide clear and unified vision for the department and to assure resources and energies are focused in the most productive and cost-effective manner. The per CAPRA guidelines, C-A-P-R-A guidelines, we are requesting the Canton Township Board of Trustees adopt this strategic plan, which we did review in a study session and Greg and his team did a good job making sure it was aligned with our overall objectives as a board, so thank you for doing that. Greg, are there any questions? Because this should be stuck into general calendar, probably should have been in consent calendar, but that's okay. Anything, any questions, comments? Yeah, please, Emery.
So I went to the Transportation Bonanza this past week, where they talked about taking items like this, like the overall goals that we have, and adding like street plans. So where we say something like, you're following the livable, walkable, and attractive community for residents, taking an addendum to that and saying, we're going to take that a step further, and now we're going to say that residents will be within 1 mile of a park, wherever they are. So do you think we're going to head in that direction, or what do you think about more detail?
Yes, we actually, from these, we have 10-year goals, 3-year goals, 1-year goals, and quarterly goals that all build up to the whole process in here. So it's kind of all tied together, and we have a lot of detail behind that as well.
But what is it for a park? Do we have a goal for a park, like a resident can walk within, our
No,
goal
we don't
is-
have, we haven't established specific goals like that. That is something we could explore.
Did that in New York City. Yeah, we attended last week in Detroit, the Michigan Parks Annual Conference, Convention, and with his $5.7 billion budget, he was able to identify, how many steps for every resident in New York.
Yeah, the goal was to have every resident within a 10-minute walk to a park. Yeah, if we had 5.7 billion, we will do that.
A lot of grass cutting. Okay, we kind of went off.
Make a motion. Let's make a motion for 5.7 billion.
Yeah.
Support.
Plant a money tree?
Right, the money trees are going to go in each of the parks. Okay, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, and I believe that was one.
Rumble just had a little heart attack over there.
Approval to purchase replacement golf cars for Fellows Creek Golf Club.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of 7 replacement golf cars for Fellows Creek Golf Club with Golf Cars Plus at 607 North Main Street, Plainwell, Michigan, 49080, in the amount of $28,420 to be paid from the account listed.
Support.
February 2017, the township purchased through a lease-to-own agreement 115 golf cars for Fellows Creek Golf Club. During 2 separate incidents in 2017, 9 golf cars were stolen from the golf course. Canton Police were able to recover 2 of the cars. Additionally, security measures as recommended by Public Safety have been put in place. Our recommendation is to purchase 7 golf carts in the amount of $28,420 for Golf Cars Plus to replace the stolen golf cars. Through Canton's insurance settlement with MMRA, we will be reimbursed 50% less the $1,000 deductible per incident, which is going to be $2,000 total deductible. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Anne Marie.
I can't
No.
wait this one.
No.
So I golf at Fellows Creek, and I know when we get off the carts, they take them and they put them behind the wooden fence. I mean, they take them right from us. So how did 9 golf carts get stolen? They move pretty slow. I'm sorry, when I read this, did someone drive up and take a trailer full, or is that what happened?
It was overnight after.
The incident occurred overnight, and yes, likely they were removed with some sort of a trailer, but it's a continuing investigation going on by our Detective Bureau currently.
Now to put them behind the wooden fence like they started to whenever we got off the golf course, or?
I believe that Greg and his team have tightened up security measures at the golf course.
Sorry, because I go there all the time, and it was interesting.
Certainly additional security measures that have been put in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Those in favor of the first motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the following budget amendment. An increase in expense to the capital outlay machinery equipment account in the amount of $28,420, a decrease in expense to the transfer to fund balance account of $15,210, and an increase in revenue from the insurance settlements in the amount of $13,210.
In favor of the second motion as
I'll
presented?
support it.
I'm sorry. Down. Trustee Snyder with support. Those in favor of the motion, second motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
7, consider approval of the 2018 fiscal year Specialized Services Operating Assistance Program Agreement with SMART.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the fiscal year 18 Specialized Services Operating Assistance Agreement between SMART and Canton Charter Township of Canton for $31,942, and to authorize yourself, the Township Supervisor, to sign the contract on behalf of the Township.
The Township submitted its annual Specialized Services application with SMART to provide funding for Canton Mobility Transportation Program. SMART has notified the Township that it is eligible for $31,942 as stated under the program for the program year from October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. Canton Leisure Services has requested board approval for Specialized Services Operating Assistance Program Agreement with SMART. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Emery.
So Director Foss, would this be, could we use these with the DARA funds? I don't know if we could combine the two in terms of, oh, okay, I don't know. Well, you were looking at the link. I don't know if you looked into it that far.
Right, right. It's something that we'd have to look at down the road, but maybe, I don't know.
Basically, you could replace them, if it's a diesel, you could replace it one for one. Combine and maybe get an additional bus or something like that.
The current vehicles are we don't own any of the vehicles. SMART provides those vehicles to us, so we don't have any say in what vehicles they provide to us, and we don't purchase them. We have no this is specifically for the operating costs for those, so there's a couple different funding mechanisms. One is the vehicles themselves, and another is the operating costs for the drivers and dispatch and other things that we need to operate the program. So this is specifically focused on that. The vehicles, the only expense that we have for the vehicles is the maintenance and upkeep.
Board should maybe, we're going off the specific a little bit, but our current services that we contract through HVA is choosing not to align with SMART's requirements for federal testing, drug testing, random drug testing, and what have you. So they have issued a letter to the township basically stating that we've got 180 days to find a new source. So there is a whole lot of dynamics in play that are just occurred in the last couple days. Greg and his people right now are absolutely scrambling because we may be not even worried about using smart vehicles in the future, or maybe we will be. We don't know where it's going to end up. So that's hot off the press, and Greg's team is scrambling to figure out what our options may be. So that's coming at you. This portion of it is just a simple grant to help pay for the operating expenses of the drivers, period. Nothing to do with the actual vehicles. So stay tuned. There's more to come on that. All right. Any additional board comment? Questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have a second motion here, or all set? Moving on, G8. IT services, renewal with contract enterprise services for internet service.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the 3-year agreement with Comcast to provide internet service at an increased capacity for the township.
Support.
Summary, for the past 6 years, the township has sourced its primary internet access from Comcast Enterprise Services. The service provided by Comcast has been extremely solid and sound and provides numerous departments whose business applications reside out on the internet. A very high level of access and uptime is what we've experienced. The current contract with Comcast has expired, and the township is currently in a month-to-month situation. While there is no belief that Comcast will attempt to price gouge the township, IT Services is recommending an increase in bandwidth capacity from Comcast to be obtained. To receive the increased capacity, the township must sign a new agreement with Comcast. As more township-critical or important business applications are sourced from the internet, the current level of bandwidth capacity has at times shown to be insufficient and resulted in reduced performance of the various applications. The IT Services Manager contacted Comcast Enterprise Services to solicit cost proposals for increased capacity increases for the township. The township must enter into a 3-year agreement with Comcast to increase our capacity. Are there any board questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G9. Consider request to purchase ammunition.
Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of ammunition utilizing State of Michigan contract pricing from Kessler Police Supply in the amount of $24,003. Thanks, Diane.
Yes. Very good. The police department is requesting to purchase ammunition for rifles and handguns to be used on duty and for training qualifications. The simunition cartridges, also for training. That's a brand-new word for me, guys. Simunition cartridges, also for training. Keesler Police Supply has quoted the ammunition utilizing the State of Michigan contract pricing. The total cost for this purchase with shipping is $24,003, as stated. The funds for this purchase are budgeted in the 2018 operating supplies account. Are there any questions for Director Meyer? Okay, seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
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 Motion carries. Item G10. Consider purchase of mobile and portable 800 megahertz radios.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to waive the bidding process and approve the purchase of 4 mobile and 5 portable 800 megahertz radios from Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $47,632.35, utilizing E911 funds. Additionally, I move to approve a budget. That is going to be a
Second motion, very good.
Support.
Yes, thank you, Treasurer Slavens, for the support. The police department is in need of 4 Motorola APX 6500 remote mount mobile police radios and 5 APX 6000 portable radio kits. These units will outfit new officers and vehicles and be the first significant purchase since converting to the State of Michigan's MPSCS 800 megahertz radio system in 2012. Due to the necessity of continuity in radio equipment, purchasing the same radio as currently owned is imperative. Therefore, the department requests, again, to waive the bidding process and to purchase the above model radios from Motorola Solutions and the amount stated. Are there any questions for Director Meyer? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve a budget amendment to accommodate the complete purchase.
Support.
In favor of the second motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on, G11, consider authorizing agreement for architectural services for public safety facilities and authorization to proceed with Phase 1 needs assessment.
Supervisor, I move to approve signing the agreement with Partners in Architecture, PLC, in Mount Clemens, Michigan, for the purpose of architectural services for public safety facilities, and to approve the proposed Phase 1 needs assessment for the public safety headquarters and fire station number 2.
I think we had Anne Marie
Yep.
first. Thank you, Diane. In August 2017, a request for proposal was advertised for architectural services for public safety facilities. soliciting for a vendor to review and recommend structural needs for the department's dispatch, public safety headquarters, fire station number 2, and gun range training facility. 10 formal proposals were submitted and reviewed by a committee of representatives from the police, fire, facilities maintenance, and finance departments. In October 2017, 5 firms were invited to give a formal presentation to the committee, and they were scored on pre-established criteria including relative experience, comprehension of proposed projects, fee schedules, and other criteria. The highest score was awarded to Partners in Architecture, PLC, Mount Clemens, Michigan, further known as Partners. As a second meeting was held with Partners in December 2017 to request proposal for Phase 1 needs assessment to include improvements to public safety headquarters, expansion of dispatch, replacement of fire station number 2. The Partners phase proposal includes a not-to-exceed price of $39,500 for public safety dispatch needs assessment and $10,500 for the fire station number 2 needs assessment. The department is estimating the additional expense of $5,000 for police and $1,000 for fire to cover reimbursable fees listed in the attached proposals. Are there any board questions, comments for Director Meyer?
I'll ask one. When do we expect them to start designing all these changes?
Tomorrow. Realistically, I have Michael Malone here from, he's one of the principals with Partners in Protection, but I met with him tonight. My team has met with them on, as the RBA says, numerous occasions, but we're looking to really get started within the next week or so on the Station 2 project. That's the priority, and then Dispatch Center would take second priority to that. So there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of assessments to be made, so we're looking forward to getting to work right away.
So the first one that we would consider actually building once they design it is the fire station, and then some of these are in future years after that, or?
I think we'll likely, we're outgrowing our dispatch center. It's very, we're having a lot of difficulties with the way that it's set up. I would estimate that we're going to likely see probably 2 joint projects going on at one time, Station 2 and a dispatch center. When those start, I think is really what we're looking for, Partners in Architecture to kind of help us and guide us through that, because to look at where is the best place to put our dispatch centers is we need that expertise to look at what our load-bearing walls, where can we move, what can we do, what's the cost in doing all that, so that we can find the most economic solution to expand that to meet our growing needs. I don't know if Michael wants to
Does
say
anybody have
anything.
any questions for Mr. Malone this evening? Seeing none, okay, we're excited to see you get going. So those in favor of the first motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Carries. Second motion.
Supervisor, I further move to approve the below budget amendments to the 2018 police and fire budgets to accommodate this purchase.
Those in favor of the second motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Carries. Item G12, consider approving a 2018 fire budget amendment for purchase of property.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve an amendment to the 2018 fire budget in the amount of $215,000 to purchase property commonly known as 41454 and 41472 Warren Road in Canton, Michigan.
As you are all aware, this was part of our closed session a couple weeks back. We engaged an agent. I think he did an outstanding job getting us to this point. We haven't closed, so this is just kind of formalizing. Charter Township of Canton has entered into a purchase agreement for the property commonly known as 41454 and 41472 Warren in Canton. This land is intended to be used for an expansion rebuild of Canton Fire Station Number 2. The department is requesting an amendment to their 2018 fire budget to accommodate the price quoted in the signed purchase agreement in the amount of $215,000 again. Are there any questions, comments on this item? Seeing none, those in, oh, Michael? No? Okay, very good. Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G, that was one item yet. Item G12, G13. Consider the purchase of Vigilant license plate reader system and annual subscription.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of one license plate reader system and annual subscription from Vigilant Solutions in the amount of $22,525 with subsequent annual subscription costs of $14,995.
Police Department recently requested formal proposals for a license plate reader system consisting of 3 cameras, recognition software, and database access. 2 vendors submitted proposals, with Vigilant Solutions being selected as the low bid and desired product for purchase. Vigilant Solutions license plate reader is $22,525 to purchase with an annual subscription of $14,995. Traffic forfeiture funds would be utilized for this purchase. Are there any questions for Director Meyer?
I
Go ahead, Stephen.
I was just going to ask Director Meyer to explain what this does. I read the background information, but just for the public out there.
Yeah, so I figured somebody was going to ask, so I brought Deputy Director Baugh tonight. He's done a lot of the legwork and research for our department, so if he wants to kind of field some of those questions, go up to the podium and have at it.
Chad, if you'd please
Yeah, go
come
to
to
the
the
podium.
podium, so that way the public can hear you on the broadcast.
Consideration Board, with this product, you've seen it on the news, you've seen it many times. I can provide anecdotes, but just envision, like if you've seen, and I think it was in on the East Coast, someone shot a reporter. Immediately, an officer's driving down the freeway. Her car, who has one of these cameras, alerts, there's the bad guy. Guy stopped immediately. There's a lot of manpower, personnel strength that's cut down on actually knowing where felons are residing, where they're parking their cars. A lot of felons do not park their cars at their homes. They park them elsewhere. And these readers are going out every night and finding these cars. It is essentially Big Brother, but it also, the way we use them, the way this system is devised, it's in compliance with the federal government requirements, the CJIS requirements, and it really cuts down and mitigates risk for the police department. We don't have to put out a whole surveillance team. We know where people may be that are using cars. So there's been one of our officers is actually assigned to a task force right now and had access for a period of time, and we've identified multiple shootings for other agencies. And it really cut down on a lot of risk. A recent shooting in Garden City, the bad guy was located because our officer had access to this system. Everybody was safely arrested and prosecuted. So,
Chad, if you could also touch on some of the other, our Amber Alerts and missing people, how that could aid in expediting if we get an Alzheimer's patient.
yeah,
goes missing.
exactly. If we came off, let's say we're not going to use it for a felony crime. There's a person that's suicidal. We know their plate. We know where they're at now, potentially. We know where they could be parking their car and get them help immediately. Or a person who takes a child, that car, if it's in Canton and parks somewhere, we know where that person could be at because of the license plate reader being picked off one of our cars. Or with a subscription, we partner with the private industry who has these repo trucks that are out every day collecting images from cars. So
How does it tell the difference between a bumper sticker and a license plate?
it's really deep technology. We can provide you the information, but it reads all plates. And the one thing you have to do is decipher between the states. It'll capture the numbers. Then the person reading the information has to determine whether or not it's the proper state.
Officers driving through parking lots,
Right.
it's picking up data,
Yep.
feeding it John Anthony's
Right.
cloud, magical
Yeah.
cloud, and
Yep.
then if the two match,
Sends an alert to the officer.
back down.
Right.
Wow.
And let's say, for instance, we're looking for that person for the bank robbery. We know we didn't catch the guy. Boom, we have access to software now, that subscription service where that person's most likely parked his car. If he's in a populated area where these license plate readers are going through every night, we can put our people in position for success. So
Doug? That's,
it's a great way to not have to pay for personnel strength too. Because we used to have surveillance teams, would go out for days to look for one guy. Plug in a license plate, we got a starting point, so.
Michael?
So just as a matter of implementation, is it, so I see that what we're purchasing is, we will receive 3 cameras. Is that going to be for 3 separate patrol units, or how, where are these cameras going to be mounted?
They're going to be affixed to the patrol car. They're going to shoot like this and then out front, so they'll be able to capture as they patrol. It's going to be a vehicle that's most likely on the road almost 24 hours a day. The big purchase too is we get, the software, the subscription service that we get every year, because it's not just our one car. It's all these tow trucks that are out there doing repos. It's the other, I think it's 5 billion captures they're at right now, of plate captures, and it's just going up right now.
Oh, just out of curiosity, I believe we have 4 enforcement zones for street patrols. How, if we have 3 cameras, I understand that we'll be getting data from other individuals as well, but so how would that work?
Oh, if you're looking at, we'll put it in a car, we've already predetermined that a patrol officer vehicle that's going to be out a lot. So it's not going to be a vehicle that's parked in our back lot. It's going to be a vehicle that's used quite often. And it's interchangeable. That car, let's say it gets in a wreck, we can move that system right into another car with Clark, who would help us out right away, so.
I've attended roll call, and I want to do that again in the near future, Josh, and I recommend each of the board members do that because it's pretty neat to see roll call in action. And there's something about, some vehicles are loved more so than other vehicles.
All right.
So there's a little, excitement that during roll call, who gets to take which vehicle. So I don't know if you're putting it on one of the better ones that guys like more than others.
It'll be a new vehicle. It's important. There's a lot of training that goes into this too, so it's backed up with constant training with policy and procedure to make sure this information is used properly. So there's checks and balances that go along with it.
So if you, are you looking at, I don't know, maybe the service is looking at combining store cameras or things like that? So it's, I know it's just vehicles, but it seems like there's different other cameras.
There's fixed options. There's a lot of other technology I think the board will see in the near future, maybe 10 years down the road. It's all based on what our technology inside that dispatch center can accept. So a lot of it's just planning.
So if somebody has a dirty license plate, that would be hard, that would be.
Well, there's a good chance it'll still capture it. I mean, the technology is pretty precise, so. Well, if it's snow covered, it probably wouldn't capture it, but if it's discernible by some degree, it's going to capture it.
To piggyback on to what Chad said, to answer your question, Anne Marie, about the store cameras, that's something that we're looking at integrating into our dispatch center, and we're in converse, Chad's working through that with Motorola and other vendors to where our dispatchers would have access through a feed to go into, to look at a store camera. So if we got a report of a robbery in progress at the gas station, our dispatchers could get a live feed, see what's going on, and report that in real time to our police officers. So that's all technology, and as that continues to improve and continues to evolve, it's something that we're looking at and trying to figure out what's the best solution for Canton Township, because we don't want to jump into something that's going to be outdated technology in a year. That's our biggest fear right now.
Private citizens, long-term progressions of that, if they want to contribute anything, they could right away, so thanks.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, sorry, from a practical standpoint, do we create our own database where we put numbers into, or is this like we use it for one specific time? Because I'm just curious, like if Wayne County were to say, we've got X amount, or there's X amount of, here are the license plates associated with all these bench warrants, we don't know where these people are. Would they dump it into our software, and now we're driving around, we start picking up people with all of these, would that, I guess that's.
In that
what is the
scenario,
software?
it would be uncommon. Let's say Prosecutor Worthy says, and she does this, these persons are wanted. We could do some intelligence work and see what type of vehicles they may be connected with and backtrack it very easily that way. Because we do that type of work quite often with our Western Wayne or in our internal teams. So if we do that, we would take that information and do some work and connect the plates. Then we wouldn't have to go out in the field right away. We could have some intelligence going into that. But with Wayne County, they would, I don't see an option for that, or a scenario like that. They would have to pay for the system themselves. So, okay.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I believe that covers us for the agenda this evening. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, is there any board comment?
Can I just ask, I know we were all inundated with snow this week, and the residents were asking us lots of questions, and we know also that, some of our roads, north, south, Wayne County didn't do as well as they did others. One of the things that were brought up at the meeting I was at is, I know cities do this, but is there a way, do our ordinances allow, somehow we look at, if snow were to fall at a certain rate in a certain amount of time, we could look at hiring private contractors to do some of these thoroughfares like Haggerty and Lilly, and just to get the traffic moving on some of the north-south roads? I mean, is that a possibility ever?
Always a possibility. It's just simply a function of, saying we want to do it, and we do it, but then it's a budget impact.
There's one other consideration too, which is probably the bigger one, and that would be the legal liability for undertaking that. And as soon as the township would deploy forces on a county road, then we would assume jurisdiction for that and would take on the liability potentially. And I think our township attorney would probably recommend against doing that.
In other places with the liability.
Cities have jurisdiction for the roads in those
Don't
cases.
have jurisdiction.
Okay, I just wonder if we could do it and maybe look at something, but I mean, what's happening with Wayne County in terms of, do we think they got to us quickly enough, or?
Yeah, I've requested a meeting, so it'll probably be a few weeks before we get some answers to that issue, but I've requested the meeting, and I'm waiting to hear back on when they'd be available to meet to go over the data that I collected during the February 9th storm event, so.
But Tim has collected some statistical data that shows very clearly that the eastern edge of Wayne County and the western edge of Wayne County does not appear to have the same level of service as the center of Wayne County. So we're going to make them aware of our concern. We are also aware that there were 22 out of 100 vehicles broke down. Made a recommendation or request of Warren Evans, I did personally at the Conference of Western Wayne last Friday during the snowstorm, to see if Canton Township may be able to help him repair some of his trucks. Tim has put together some data and may do something with neighboring communities in partnership to help Wayne County out. So if you've got 22 out of 100, if you got a quarter of your trucks are parked because they're down, that's moronic, and we can help. And so Tim is going to see what he could do to help.
Even driving, because I drove across both times, and there was definitely differences through Wayne County on the same road.
I also was on the roads all day, and I think, all things being said, it wasn't horrific. I think they did a fair job, not a great job, a fair job. I was able to go every place I needed to go, but it was slow. It was slow because the downfall was continuous. And social media is clear on the community's opinion. They're pissed. That's easy. So we want to try to do better if we can, and we'll encourage Wayne County to do so. Any additional board comment? Go ahead, Steve.
Congratulations to the Sibs. Absolutely. Yes, they are bronze medal winners, and they train here in Canton, and hopefully we'll get to honor them for that. That would be nice. And I don't know if there's any others that we know that are competing right now.
We've got a hockey player who lives in Canton.
Oh, really? Oh. Oh, okay. Well, good luck to them all.
Arctic Edge. Head out now.
Any additional board comments, questions? Any staff comments? Team, directors? Anything to share? Okay. Call for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Favor, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We're closed. Thank you.